loitering allowed in the cemetery. I think I'm breaking some rules here, but whatever, I'm graveyard girl, it's okay, right? This is kind of creepy though. I guess this is where the caretaker used to wander, but now it's just like an open space. This is almost a shade of Haint Blue, but not quite. Have I told y'all about Haint Blue yet? Maybe I should vlog about that next. I'm gonna tell y'all a Civil War story of woe and tragedy. Should be fun.
Hey everybody, it's Bunny, and y'all have been requesting me to do another paranormal vlog, but I haven't really had any activity for the past couple weeks, so I decided to do a bit of a graveyard tour instead. I'm here at my favorite graveyard in Galveston. I did a tour one time before on my channel, like a long time ago, but I just kind of like was panning around and I was like, look at it. You know, I didn't really talk about anything in particular. But there are several really interesting stories and interesting gravestones in here. So I'm going to talk about one today, and if you guys like it, I will go to other graveyards and film other stories and what have you. This isn't really a paranormal story, but it is a historical story, and it's pretty interesting, so I thought I would tell it. This gentleman here, Edward Lee, has a very interesting story and a very interesting marker. He was actually right around my age when he died. So this is a Civil War story. I know a lot of you are international, so during the Civil War, a lot of families and brothers and fathers and sons were split up because, you know, one of them would be for the Confederacy and one of them would be for the Union Army. Such is the case between these two gentlemen. His father, his name was Albert Lee. He was a Confederate, and his son, Edward Lee, was a Union soldier. So Edward, I'm gonna call you Edward, he had begun his career at West Point. He was a promising naval graduate. So basically, when they were picking sides, you know, the son said, well, I took an allegiance of oath to serve the United States Army, which would be the Union, and his father was basically like, if you choose to fight for them, you know, I'm not going to consider you my family any longer. So basically the deal is there was a skirmish between the Confederates and the Union soldiers in Galveston. You know, the Union is trying to take over the territory of Galveston. So there's this battle, and the father had recently joined in like a volunteer group on the side of the Confederates. This big fight basically goes down between these ships, and the father didn't 100% know if his son was on this ship or not. I believe the boat was called the Harriet Lane. I'll put it somewhere around here if I'm saying that wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's like the conclusion of the battle. The Union soldiers did not win this particular skirmish, and so kind of after the battle had died down, the father asked his commanding officer of his volunteer troop if he had permission to go on board the Union ship and see if his son was on board. So the father, Albert, goes on the ship. You know, he's panic-strickenly looking for his son, and sure enough, he finds his son laying in the ship, you know, horribly wounded. So he asks his son, is there anything that I can do for you? And the son, Edward, he replied, you know, my father is here now and everything is okay. So that's a pretty touching story. It's pretty sad. So his father goes off and he's looking for a stretcher to try and get his son some medical attention. And by the time the father got back to the son, he had already passed. The next day, the commanding officer of the Confederates allowed several Confederate soldiers and some Union prisoners to go to this young man's service. And the plot that he is actually buried in was donated by this family right here, which are the Grovers. And there are several Grovers right here. I'll show you these monuments in a minute. Sadly enough, the day that he died, he was actually, his next assignment was to become captain of his own ship, and he was going to be sent to New Orleans where he was going to be captain of this ship, but he never actually got that duty because he died the day before he was to receive that order. So this is his marker. I'll show y'all in detail in a minute. There's an anchor and a sword on top, and at the very bottom it says, "My father is here," which was his dying words. But there is a twist about this gravesite and this plot. And it's something that surprisingly even the historical marker does not denote, is that this grave is actually shared by 2 individuals. So there are actually 2 people here, and I really kind of think it's tragic upon more research because there's no historical marker in remembrance of him, and the tombstone is only for Edward Lee, so it's like there is another soldier here who died in combat and there's no marker for him, nothing's written about him, so it's almost like he's been forgotten, which is tragic. Now, the young man who shares this gravesite with him, his name is Jonathan Wainwright. So that is the tragic tale of woe that I present to you here. So here is the marker, the historical plaque that commemorates him. This was put up in 2005. And then here is a closer look at his tombstone. So there are his last words. It's really in shadows, but there are his last words. And then here is the uniqueness of the marker. It has an anchor and a sword on top. So I usually don't really try and contact anyone specific, but I did bring my ghost box out here to try and see if I capture anything interesting. This is really my newest piece of paranormal investigating equipment, and since I retold the story today, maybe there might be some energy here and I might get some kind of anomaly on here. So I'm just going to turn it on and see if I get anything interesting, if Edward or Jonathan or anyone I've discussed today would have something to say. I just heard the word shit. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm gonna probably come out here in the fall again, like September or October, towards the fall, when it gets cooler out here because it's really too hot. And I would like to get some more history on some other individuals buried here. So as usual, please take a moment to subscribe, comment down below, and let me know if you like these graveyard tours or history stories. If you want, you can like me on Facebook, facebook.com/graveyardgirl, or you can follow me on Twitter. There I am pretty vacant. I will put that right down here. Y'all can tweet at me and tell me what you think. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.